So my lesson today is titled The Tendency of Our Thoughts, because that is what Holmes says is the most important thing. Do you know what happens and what must happen before you head up or down a staircase? A choice has to be made, a decision. So especially if it's a spiral staircase and you're in the middle of it, right? Are you going to head further up that spiral staircase? Or are you going to go back down that spiral staircase? The choice is ours to make. Well, there is a third choice. Guess what the third choice is? Right, stand right where you are. That's called maintaining status quo. It's called stagnating. It's called basically death, right? And don't you know some folks that are just stagnant and repeating the same patterns over and over and over again, year after year after year? We don't want to be those people. But we also know some folks who are headed down the staircase of life, wah, 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 right? And we'll talk more about that too. But I also know we have a room full of people right here. We have people online as well who are looking up. They want to go up the spiral staircase of life. Are you with me on that, right? So as you probably know, Terry and I were not here last week. We traveled to a music festival in Cancun hosted by one of our favorite musicians, Brandi Carlile. And I know there are some of Brandi Carlile fans in the room today. So anyway, we chose to go there because I knew that there were going to be some of my favorite things available there. All right, sunshine, beaches, cool people, you know, great music, social connections with a sprinkle of spirituality in there, because Brandi actually is quite a spiritual person, right? And it would be the perfect place to experience this rush of, you know, the positive brain chemicals that Armand and Angelina taught about last week, right? The serotonin, the oxytocin, the endorphins, all, you know, all the good stuff. I knew that that's going to be there, right? And so as I travel, I'm always hoping to become aware of a lesson or an illustration of a point that I know I'm going to be making in one of my lessons, and Spirit did not disappoint this time. So as we were getting ready to go to our trip, I guess about 10 days ago now, I had something happen to me which is likely going to be very familiar to you, okay? So somehow I got triggered. Okay, so what I mean by that is something occurred without my conscious awareness that shifted me into an internal mindset or this energy vibration of low self-esteem. Meaning on some deeper level, I started spiraling down in self-doubt, uncertainty, probably social anxiety, something like that. Now, when I fall into such a thought pattern, my old script survival tactic is to withdraw. And I present as very numb and unavailable. So remember that if you've been around here a while, I've shared that my dark spirit animal is an octopus and my light spirit animal is an otter. Okay, so I love to be in my otter energy, and I was hoping I would be an otter last weekend, but I found myself in my octopus energy. What do octopus do? They withdraw and they hide behind the rocks. Okay, so see what I'm talking about. That's where I was. So I'm in my survival thing, I'm especially withdrawn from any good stuff that's happening around me. So what that looks like is this. I was moody. I was what I call attitudinal. But also just kind of numb and neutral about the fact that we were leaving on this trip. We've been looking forward to this trip for months and months. And I'm just like kind of absent. And I was kind of snippy and I was kind of quiet, not the most pleasant person in the world to be around, and everything was kind of irritating me. Do you understand what I am describing, right? So poor Terry, exactly. So when we landed in Cancun, little things started unfolding to delay our progress. And I won't get into all those complaining details, but I could. The language barriers were everywhere. It was just frustrating. Everything was frustrating. I felt pretty internally foggy and confused, and the energy around me felt chaotic and disorienting. I was surrounded by hundreds of people who were all very excited to be there, very excited to be there, to be at this music festival. And you know, normally I just kind of jump right into such a scene, but last Thursday I was internally a mess. I found myself just kind of withdrawing from the fun and avoiding those connection moments with others that I normally would typically just kind of lean into with enthusiasm to meet new people. And I was complaining about little things that normally I would just take in stride, like it's no big deal. My internal world just felt yucky. It felt yucky. And as you can imagine, speaking of Terry, she was a bit baffled. Like, you're not your normal joyful self. And I apologized, and I tried to rise to the occasion. I just couldn't find my center that first evening there. I just couldn't. I'm sure she thought I was tired or hungry or bitchy or whatever. I was probably all those things. But she held her center, and she stayed positive and patient as she kept offering every solution she could think of. I was a mess, but we got through the first evening. Now, the next morning was Friday morning. And I had a prayer call scheduled with my practitioner because it's every Friday morning, and I didn't quite cancel it, but I was in such a space that I postponed it for several hours to see if I could kind of feel better. And I texted instead and said, can I get a prayer for inner peace and clarity? And instead of getting on that call first thing in the morning, I kind of went to the beach. I wanted to sit in the sun a minute just to kind of see if I could settle my thoughts. But remember, those hundreds of people were still there. They were still around. They were having a large time. And so as I sat there in the chair in the sun, I kind of knew I had to make a decision. I was at a decision point. I was either going to shift out of this very, very old, familiar, low self-esteem pattern and create something better, or I was about to ruin this whole vacation. Can anyone relate to this at all? Okay, good. So as I sat on that chair and I woke up to the reality that I was on the staircase of life and I was about to decide which direction I was going to go in, up or down or not, what direction was the tendency of my thought going to take? So thankfully, I went ahead and called my practitioner. And in that conversation, I was clearly reminded that no matter how much chaos energy was all around me, that I had the power to connect with peaceful energy within me always. That was not dependent on where I was in the world. And that if I asked for clarity, I would receive the insight I needed, and nothing outside myself had the power to choose how this weekend went. I was at choice. That was the reminder that I needed. So I was aware that I was living out this very lesson that I intended to teach this week. Because when I was faced with this familiar pattern, you know, when we all are, we have a choice to throw up our hands and say things like, figures, Murphy's Law, this happens every time. Why do I even get myself into these situations? Spend all this money and then you just, bleh, you know, that's right? All that kind of thinking, what does that do? It's just accepting that you're just going to stay right here where you are. Maybe you'll try next time, but this one's a wash, right? Mounts just circling and circling that same spiral staircase, that same pattern. Or when faced with a similar familiar pattern like this, you can start descending the staircase of life and start reaching for more pain and more fear. And that for me would have looked like perhaps like blaming Terry for everything or whoever is around, blaming, starting a quarrel or stirring up old pain between us or any of that. That would have looked like poisoning the people around me with complaining and vitriol. I could have also gotten really defensive and like pretended like nothing's wrong and like, I don't know why you think something's wrong. There's nothing wrong with me. You know, that's that. We all know what going down the staircase looks like, right? We know what that sounds like. But I also had the spiritual maturity to remember that I could face this familiar inner pattern and choose to rise. I could head up that staircase and learn something about how to break these moments now, right now, and in the future. So I knew I needed to do some self-love, right? So after my practitioner prayer, which was just the beginning of that self-love, making that call was a self-love step. It's like, I need help. That's a big one. I need help. That same day, I got a massage to remind myself and feel that appreciation for my physical body. I chose some solitude. I sat in the sun alone for a while to kind of read some things to calm me down and kind of soothe my mental atmosphere. I was very, very honest with Terry. I told her I'm numb. I'm not mad at her. I'm not disappointed in anything that's happening. Something's going on in here. And I was working to re-engage and fully show up. And I asked for her, like, please continue to be patient. Please don't make it worse, right? I'm trying. And we talked about what I could do, some things I could do to re-immerse myself in the good stuff that was available all around me, that was all happening. And so throughout the next 24 hours, I kept making choices to reach through that inner fog and connect with source, to connect with spiritual energy that was all around me. You know, I allowed myself to sway to, these are some of my favorite songs in the world, right? Being played live right here. So I allowed myself to feel it. I swayed to the music. I even sang along a little bit with everyone else. And I started chatting with as many of the other attendees as I could to really lean into that oneness, that we're all here by choice and that similar vibe. You know, I leaned into gratitude. I started thanking everybody. My goodness, these people came by with drinks every 2 seconds. Are you thirsty? Are you thirsty? I'm like, thank you so much. No, I'm not, but thank you, thank you. I got some rest. I allowed myself to sleep in every morning. We didn't turn on the television at all, except for the NFL playoff highlights. We did watch a little bit of football. I'll be doing that this afternoon too. But in other words, I immersed myself in the joy available to me and indulged in those good brain chemicals. The bottom line is I chose over and over again in tiny ways to head up the staircase. So here's the thing, remember, I chose this brandy weekend because I was expecting joy there, to find good stuff there. My self-invitation was to go there and head up those particular stairs. And guess what? Our entire lives, we make choices to enter into decisions, big and small, to search for the joy and other good stuff available in whatever situation we choose. Every date you agreed to go on, you were going to look for joy. Every job you started, you were looking for the good. Every move you make, every friendship you enter, all of these choices are your soul's urging to go places to find joy. Each of these choices involves a spiral staircase. The question becomes, are you going to be determined to find the path up to love and joy and goodness through the tendency of your thoughts, or are you going to let things block the path up and cause you to turn around and descend into more thoughts of pain and fear and disappointment? Can you relate to this idea and see your own experiences of losing your determination to go up a staircase that you chose, right? Our job always remains the same. Look for the way up, always up, think up. But our souls only play one part. Our souls only identify and help us identify the potential staircases. We lead ourselves to ideas and situations that will give us the opportunity to connect with yet another staircase that leads to good stuff. Our souls did that first part, but it's our human ego selves that have the power to head in whatever direction it feels is the current direction to go. Stand still, descend, head up. Our human selves get to choose that. Let me explain. Once we have chosen to engage in a thing at our soul's invitation, our human self starts taking steps in one direction or the other. But let's start with standing still, okay? So what causes us to come to a screeching halt on any staircase of life. What causes that? Mostly, I think something major happens. We get scared and we feel a need to grab the rail and hang on for dear life. Haven't you had those moments? We all know what that feels like because it's happened to all of us. As a matter of fact, there are some very big life stressors where the wisdom is to just hold the rail and stand still for a little bit while you catch your breath and remember who you are. I often advise people to do that, standing still in a sacred way after a major life change. So I have a client right now who got released from employment recently, kind of unexpectedly after a long career. Oh, and her mother passed away, and her change of employment made her move to another city, and she got a few unexpected health concerns rise. No wonder she wanted a coach, right? She was in a mess. And here's what I know about the staircases of life. When you have that much happening, that much wind of change blowing around you that hard, the human instinct is likely going to be to want to head down. Head down to something old, something familiar, something you know, a pattern that you can repeat. It may not be best in the long run. So the wisdom is, don't make any big decisions right now. Haven't you been told that before? Ooh, all this change. Don't make any big decisions right now. Just wait a minute, wait a minute. Let the dust settle. Find your footing. Find your footing. This stair that you're standing on right now is solid, so just pause. The pause is a sacred pause. It's time to stand still, ground yourself in your highest self. It's time to pray and journal and find a coach and not run into anything new in any kind of rebound kind of energy until your thoughts can tend in a more positive direction. Get it? That's a conscious decision to stand still on the staircase of life. That's a good decision. But there's another stagnating way to find yourself on the same stair on the staircase. Just like my experience in Cancun, we can find ourselves repeating old patterns incessantly when we're numbing ourselves and not following our guidance as to what we should do next. It sounds like this: I'm too afraid to make a choice, so I'm just going to isolate myself right here. Or I'm unclear of my direction, so I'm just going to kind of lather, rinse, and repeat till my hair falls out, right? Basically, in this description, we're staying on the same level because we've fallen asleep and are no longer choosing at all. Why? Well, I only stayed numb for maybe about 36 hours, falling into old patterns of avoidance. But we can get stuck on the stairs not trying to change anything. I have a few people in my life right now who are living this way, and man, it's frustrating to watch. It's like I want to, and often do say, just do something. How long are you going to just sit here in this mess? Do something. So hopefully you're listening to me and you're not asleep. Well, you might be nodding off, but you're not really asleep. But hopefully you're interested in learning how to claim higher ground for yourself and wanting to head up the stairs. But let's talk first about what it looks like to head down the stairs and descend to a lower vibration, because that can happen to us sometimes too. Fear is the basis of the human ego. Our frail human selves are afraid to lose ground. They're afraid to miss out or be left behind. They're afraid of loss or being hurt or looking stupid. When we act from that level of motivation to survive at all costs, our thoughts tend to go downhill. Our thoughts, the thoughts we think at that point are usually about fear, almost a fear of anything, right? We stop taking risks and our lives get smaller and smaller, more confined to just a few activities and people that feel possible for us. And when we do that, we block opportunities, we block new ideas, and down the stairs we go. Can you relate to that? Right? So to stop the downward decline, we must first look up. It takes courage to look up. It takes courage to hope for more. Do you know why it takes such courage? Because heading up the staircase means change is going to happen, and more is going to be required of you to head up. So once you've identified one of the steps that you want to take on the stairway of life, we've got to move our thoughts from fear to love. The tendency of our thoughts has to be moving from fear to possibility, from away from limitation and to hopefulness. The tendency of our thoughts, bottom line, has to be more hopeful. And just in my personal experience, my first choice was to hope that my weekend could get better. That was a thought in the right direction. Another thought was that I had the power to do something about the trajectory of the experience. Yet another one was an awareness that love was the answer. Self-love, yes, but open myself up for the love that was available around me and the environment around me. And having the discipline to hold on to those thoughts and dismiss that fearful, doubting pattern led me to better and better choices, which revealed the goodness available to me. Here's the deal. Nothing around me changed. Nothing. From Thursday to Friday to Saturday, it was all the same people, the same music, the same food. The food was awful. The same everything. The world out there didn't change. My inner world changed because I started taking steps up. When I did, my experience of all that out there, even the food, changed. Get it? The bottom line is your soul is inviting you this year to go up on purpose. My Brandy weekend experience, it was just a very common example of doing what I'm talking about. A tiny, simple illustration of an inner decision to change the tendency of our thoughts. Granted, I wasn't stuck in a big, long pattern of choosing, but the principles to apply remain the same, whatever staircase you're on. So the next time I choose a similar event and I get social anxiety that shows its ugly head, I can remember the things that I tried this time and make higher step choices to find more moments of joy before I get stuck. Hopefully, Terry prays that I do it before. Because the spiral staircase of life is always going to come back around to bring me back to choice points over and over again. Why? Because my soul still wants more joy. It still wants more love and more harmony and connection and peace, and so does yours. And speaking of peace, next week I'm going to teach about my white stone word, peace. Man, I know we need that right now, right? Right? So we are here to claim higher ground together this year. Let's make sure the tendency of our thoughts are a little better, a little happier, a little more harmonious, a little more health-giving and joyous, because as Holmes pointed out, if each day we are expressing more life, we are going in the right direction. Will you pray with me? Oh, join me in that determination to keep heading up. I know that Spirit meets me in that moment of choice. I know that the winds of God itself head up towards more love, more joy, more connection, more happiness, more peace. I know that each one in this room, each one here is shown clearly what the step up is. And that as they hold that handrail of life, they, with courage, with hope, take a step up. I am so thankful for the opportunity to teach. I'm so thankful for this community. And with all of that, I just let it go and let it be. And so it is.